Okay guys, this is where the craziness starts happening. We're gonna start to add in a bunch of textures and kind of mix them around and mash them and make this thing look all grungy and dirty and beautiful. So to do that, let's go and download some textures. Right now I've gone to my current favorite website, cc0textures.com. So let's cc0textures.com. And this site is amazing. It has public domain PBR textures. No sign up, no limits. So this is a new website, and it's just amazing. These are really nice, high quality textures, and you can check this site out. Check out their Patreon, and blah blah blah. But they're all public domain. It's awesome. So let's go in here, and you can search for metal. You can search for concrete. So I would go in and download a bunch of these, whatever you think looks good. And let's get, I'm probably going to get some concrete for the floor or for the scene. So, up to you. You can make it just be on dirt or grass or something. But anyway, the texture in particular that I want right now is called Surface Imperfections. And I'm looking at this one, number 3. So depending on which how your video card memory is, you can get 2K or 4K size. I got one of those. I got the 4K. So now I'm back into my scene. I saved that texture to a file here. So let me show it. So here it is. I put it in our scene textures folder, and I just want to rename these two. So this one, I'm going to rename it to be, let's call this roughness, and I'll call this one, let me right click it. Oh, what? Alright. Okay, Windows. So there's roughness, and let's rename this one to diffuse. And these are just different settings of the material that you can affect with images. So anyway, I've got those 3 in there, and I'm going to go select any of these objects that has the glossy material, and then I'm going up to the top, shader editor. So again, up to the top here, and then shader editor, and we can open this up. You can also use our pie menu for that, Control Shift Alt Space. And this one has our different ones, like we got our node editor is the same thing here. It's the shader editor. Okay, anyway, so I've got my I've got 2 little nodes here, material output and principled BSDF. This principled BSDF is what's controlling our complete material, and it has a bunch of settings like metallicness, specular, roughness. You can just try to play with that a little bit. Like, what happens if we increase the roughness here? So you see that highlight there is getting all blurred out when we increase the roughness, right? So that's a really nice effect. Anyway, actually, let me grab my light here, and maybe I can change the light to be something else. Let's go. I selected the light in my outliner, and then Control Shift V to bring up the light properties, and we can change it from a point light into an area light, or a sunlight, spotlight. Maybe point light is fine. We can change the size of it. Let's try area light with a disk. Area light and a disk, or ellipse. And this way you can make really long lights. If you want to see your light, you just hit Z, show extras. And there's our light. Z, show extras. So I'm going to make a long light. Something like that. You can duplicate it if you want. Z, show extras again to turn that, so we don't see the light. And then let's click back onto here. Alright, so now the magic. Let's go select with this principled BSDF selected. We're going Control Shift T, as in Tommy. Control Shift T, and then go in here and let's grab all those, all three of them, enter. And it's starting to do some magic here. It's connected up a bunch of nodes. It's brought in the images. Here's our normal image, roughness image, and color image, which correspond to these three. Here's normal, roughness, and color or diffuse. So now we see it's appearing here on the model, but it's a bit stretched out and weird looking. So we gotta go over here, and all this stuff in the mapping area is what's controlling the position and the scale of everything. So right now the images are being mapped to the UV coordinates of the objects, which is not what we want because we haven't done any UVs here, so they're kind of ugly, right? They're all stretched out and weird. So I'm going to ignore the UVs and instead drag from object straight to there. And this is going to just treat everything like overall material. Everything gets the same position and rotation and all that. So now we can go over here to the side, and each of these images has this option called flat. So flat means that it's like as if we're going from the top view and projecting the image flat straight down, and which it makes sense. So here we can see that it's all working from the top view, but from the right view, not so much. So we have to change this from flat to box. And now it's gonna, depending on what view you're in, it knows to switch the texture. So let's do that for all of them. Box, box, and box. The other interesting thing about the box texture is that, see how it's as it comes around the corner, it leaves a seam behind. But we can tell it to blend the corners using this setting here. So check out that seam. As we blend it, it's gone. So I could hit Control C to copy that blend, Control V, Control V. So Control C, Control V, Control V, and we're all set. So now the other setting that we've got here is scale. So we can adjust this if you want, just see what it does. Maybe 0.1 is going to stretch it out. So you just adjust this to taste, whatever you think looks good. You don't want it to repeat too much, so it's sort of like a trade-off, right? Alright, I think this looks okay. Now, let's go back to our original here, and I'm going to unplug the base color just for now, just so I can see exactly what the surface is doing. So let me change this back to red or something, and now I can start to see those reflections happening in there. It's pretty drastic here, and one way to change that is with the roughness. So let me also unplug the roughness. So again, the roughness will blur out the reflections. So right now it's pretty low roughness. If we increase that, it's going to blur out the reflections a bit. But we have an image here controlling that, so let's try plugging that into the roughness. Alright, so the image overall here is very, very dark, which means low values. So a black pixel in the image would equal 0 in the roughness value. A white pixel equals 1 in the roughness value, and all the grays in between are different numbers. So what we can do is control this black and white image of the roughness before it controls the roughness. So let's go Shift A, search, and I'm going to type in color ramp. And the color ramp allows us to basically do like levels in Photoshop, where you can clamp it or crush it, or just overall change the brightness and contrast of the image. So as I drag it this way, check out what's happening. Now it's becoming much of a much more light in value, which means that the roughness is increasing here. I can also drag the darknesses up to increase the contrast. You can also, another way of controlling stuff is, let's say we have, okay, this keyframe at the left side is 0. What if I change the color to be like 0.04 or even higher? So now it's gradating between a pretty high value and white. So that's another way to control it. You can also get different blending here. So right now we're using linear, which is a little bit more direct, but B-spline will be more smooth. So anyway, this part is all up to you. You just have fun with it. I love messing around with the color ramps. You can even invert it if you drag one over to one side and then flip it like that. And or you could try this other image. The one that we were using as the color can also be controlling the roughness. So let's swap that out from color to factor here. And actually they're pretty similar, so not a huge difference there. That's pretty cool. So then the surface imperfections here, which is controlling the normals, is what's giving us that up and down bumpiness. So if I unplug that, then it's flat. Let's say I unplug the roughness. Now it's just plain. Plug in the normal. Now it's bumpy. Plug in the roughness. Now it's got the shininess aspect to it. And then we could also plug this in for color too. Or actually, let me plug in this one to color and see what it looks like. So this is how our image looks for the roughness. And you could use that to, you can use this color mode to kind of see exactly what's going on. So like, as we change this color ramp, you can see what this texture is going to do precisely. That's kind of cool. And all this stuff is all brand new technology. Like, we've never had this in Blender's viewport before, and I don't think any other big 3D softwares have this built in yet. It's pretty awesome that we get to do this all real time. And I think this is how the future is going to look, for sure. Anyway, we're already in the future. So that's one material here. So what else can we do here? Let's say we want to add in some grittiness, some dirt and grime. So we can do that with another node. So I go Shift-A, search, and it's this first one, ambient occlusion. So if I hit Control-Shift left-click onto the ambient occlusion, I can see exactly what that shader is doing, or what this node is doing. And you can see that it's in the crevices, it's turning a little bit gray, a little bit darker. So these settings here don't seem to do anything for us in Eevee. I think these are settings for cycles actually. But inside Eevee, if you want to control this, you gotta go into, make sure you're on a properties panel over here on the bottom, and go into your render settings, ambient occlusion. This has to be turned on to see it, and then here's the distance. So we can increase how far this effect goes. We can increase the precision, and the factor is just how intense. Okay, and then there's a couple more options here, but you don't need to worry about those so much. Okay, so now we've got this really handy ambient occlusion mixer, basically. So we can tell everything that's in the shadows to become dirty or or grimy, and then everything on the outside can be more regular, something like that. Alright, so what we're going to need now is a mix shader. So the mix shader will combine two different materials into one. So let's go over here, Shift A, search, mix shader. And I'll put that right over here and unplug this. So now I'll plug my existing red shader into one channel, and then let's just Shift D to duplicate this one, plug it over here, and this one can be green or some other color. Okay, so now let's just double check here and see what's going on. So if I drag the factor all the way to the left, now it's 100% this green shader. Oops. Now if I drag all the way to the right, it's 100% the other red shader. So now we want to mix this, but let's mix it using this node, this ambient occlusion. So I'm going to drag the color of the ambient occlusion into the mix shader factor. And now we see, oh man, it's happening. It's happening. That's pretty cool. So let's go Z, clean mode, just to turn off everything, and we can, oh, that's so crazy. So now we can grab this thing and do whatever you want with it. You could even create a whole new textured material over here. So, I mean, I'm getting excited about this, but I don't want Blender to crash, so I'm a little bit scared to keep going, but, shit, I might just keep going. If I crash, I'll just end the video, but anyway, so let's grab this and go back to our little CCO textures site. Let's find a completely different material, something grimy, maybe it could be just straight dirt. Let me just search for dirt. Alright. Ground. Get this nice leafy ground. I don't know if this is overkill, but maybe there shouldn't be twigs and shit on the ground. Grime. Nothing. Alright, I'll try this one. I like that it's a little lumpy. I think that'll look good. Okay, so go download your new material. Let's extract that. I'll copy this over here. Okay, that looks good. So now I'm gonna go back into Blender, grab this one, and again it's Control Shift T. Control Shift T as in Timmy, and let's go back, grab all these. And then G to move these down. Let's move these all the way down. Alright, and there it is. Popped up. Fine. But we're getting all the same issues as before with the stretching. So we gotta go in and reset all this. So object, right here. And for these four textures, they need to be box. Instead of flat, box. 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 And box. And the blend can be 0.7 again. So copy, paste, paste, paste. Alright, and then we have our size again. I'm going to try like maybe 2. See how that looks. I'm gonna get rid of this one because this is only for cycles, this displacement. So let me hit X to delete it. think that looks a little bit better. Alright, and again, if we go in here into the render settings, inside of ambient occlusion, we can adjust this. Boom! Crazy, right? Adjust the factor here. That's just so cool. Oh man, crazy. And we can also adjust this texture. Maybe you don't want the dirt color to come through as much. You could mix the color. So let's say you want to mix this dirt color. You go Shift A, search, mix, RGB, and just plop that right there on the line that connects the color. And let's mix with like a dark orange, or a light orange actually. We can go like that, we can go like this. There's also different blending modes, sort of like in Photoshop. You have overlay, multiply, burn, dodge, all that. So yeah, this is so fun to play with, man. So cool. And it's all brand new stuff, guys. We did not have this in the last version in 2.79 of Blender, so really, really exciting stuff. And the really cool thing too is we could even grab this stuff here. You know what? Actually, I'm not sure about this texture of the paint, so I might want to swap that out. So that's pretty easy too. We could say, let's say I have some other texture somewhere I want to swap out. So I went in and downloaded a bunch of those. But let's say, oops. Here, I'll just copy a couple more of these. Alright. So I think maybe something like this would be good. It has nice scratches on it. Yeah, one of these. So another way to do this is we could just pick the one that's controlling roughness here, and or actually here, let's do like, can drag and drop. So let's drag and drop this right in here, and we need to do the same settings of the box blend. Copy this over, and then this goes into here. Now this can go into roughness. Maybe this goes in here. Then it goes into roughness. Yeah, so now we got something that looks a little bit better, I think. I also think this normal maybe is too strong. I could try to lower that a little bit. You could also say negative, like -1. Or not. Let's see. We also have a normal for this metal. I'll try that one too. So, same thing. Plug it into here. Box 0.7 and plug it in there. Alright, I think that's pretty nice. Sorry about all the biker gangs today. Um, so it goes from black to white. Whoa. Hmm. What's going on here? It's interesting. This one looks fine, and then this one's going all crazy. Non-color data, maybe that's it. Yeah, okay, there we go. This needs to be non-color data, I guess. And I might change the scale of this a little bit. Alright, I think this is a really good start to our material, and it's already looking pretty interesting. So yeah, have fun playing around with these settings here. I would say just keep pressing all the buttons and try plugging these into all the different areas. Like you can try making more specular. Specular is the shininess of the thing, and then you can make it more metal. Um, try to crash Blender with all the buttons. So this is like an icy version. Okay, we're gonna continue working on these materials in the next one, and I'll see you there.